Okay, thank you, Daniel. And I really want to appreciate you for introducing me to IACD. Thank you, Jessica, also for technical support in preparing this. So, as you learned from Daniel, I am working for the Catholic Diocese of Meru, and we are currently focusing on community-based inclusive development. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yeah, please, we can.
And you can also see the screen. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so today I want to present on the scorecards as evidence of inclusive community development. I'll first start with the definition. And as you are aware, scorecard is one of the social accountability audit processes that are adaptable and usable by community members, including those who cannot study. And in our case, we've been focusing on involving the persons with disabilities to measure accessibility of services in the government or public offices. So just as I've mentioned, it's a tool for social accountability and is utilized to assess government services and utilization of public services and public resources. And it gives the citizens a chance to exercise their constitutional right and their right to development. And it also gives them a chance to give feedback on services and utilization of resources. The other social accountability audit tools, I will not talk much about them, just a mention, is social audits. And in social audits, we are also working on another platform with the Kenyan Audit Office, the Auditor General's Office. We've come up with a tool called Citizen Accountability Audit that is aimed at ensuring that citizens give feedback during the public audit. Then there is public expenditure tracking service, where we are also doing budget service, independent budget analysis, gender responsive budget analysis, public revenue monitoring. The other tools are citizens charter, citizen report cards, public hearings, etc. So the community scorecard process, it is applied in a participatory manner. We've been applying it in ensuring that the government and the community members, on the other hand, engage on the equal platform. Then the scores are defined by the community. The community gives their views on what they would like to assess. If they want to assess maybe accessibility of buildings, whether there are directions to offices, whether there is accessibility of latrines and other facilities, inclusivity in communication and the like. Then it also identifies the failures and gaps in service delivery. And in our case, we look at where the government is doing well and where it is doing wrong. The action points are agreed upon. And so this tool brings together the users and providers. We say the duty bearers and the users now engage, and they jointly identify gaps and come up with the solutions. What is the purpose of this tool? Is to improve the availability, accessibility, quality, and accountability of services at the community level. And it is a two-way process, as I mentioned earlier, because it brings now service providers together with the citizens to collaboratively look at where the things are good and where there are gaps. They jointly agree on course of action. But then it also ensures informed decision making when the government or duty bearers are willing to take into account the views of the community, then it gives up a platform for informed decision making. Why is it important? It enables reforms in service provision because the feedback that is given informs the decisions that are made by service providers. Then it also provides regular feedback on quality of service to service providers. And it also links the service providers to communities by empowering citizens to provide immediate feedback to service providers. And it also creates mutual relationship or dialogue on service delivery and public resource allocation. In the past, there would be confrontations and finger pointing, and then this would build resistance. But after using this tool, we have seen where there are mutual relationship has been created, and the community members view duty bearers as equals in the process of inclusive community development. And they have been successfully conducted in South Asia and parts of Africa since the year 2000. And they has gained international recognition. And the World Bank has promoted the community scorecard tool in Ethiopia, for instance. The community scorecard tool is part of current public accountability programs in Nepal. It is part of the World Bank promoted program for accountability in Nepal, which provides practical training, action learning, and networking opportunities for civil society organizations. As I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate to be participating in a program sponsored by the World Bank on citizen accountability audit. So it's also related to community scorecard in that the community members will be empowered. There is a framework, and already a pilot is being conducted through a World Bank funded project called NARIC. And it is meant to bring the duty bearers and the users of the services together to assess the utilization of funds and the response of the project to community needs. And it will also measure inclusivity. They are being successfully conducted, especially in South Asia, as I mentioned, and the part of Africa. And it tracks if services and programs are progressing well and compare the performance of service across facilities. They also report on the quality of services at a higher level. And as I mentioned, it is not about finger pointing or blaming. It is not also designed to set true personal scores. So as we work with the community, we tell them to be politically impartial and to be very objective in the process. And we also talk with the government and ask them not to have any biases. They should give their views or perception about services they are delivering without partiality. And it facilitates good governance by promoting participation, transparency, accountability, and informed decision making. What should we do? What should one do to prepare for a community scorecard? There are preparatory activities that should take place because it's a rigorous process and it needs to be well planned. So some of the preparatory works are done ensuring that logistics are in place. You need financial resources. You need maybe meeting venues. You might need some writing materials. Then participatory identification of community and government representatives who will take part in the process. Then training the representatives on what the scorecard process is and what is not, with emphasis of what it is not, that it is not finger pointing. So when we are doing the scorecard committees, you do two committees, one made up of the service providers or the government representatives, or if you are you want to measure the services being given by even a private entity, you form a committee of the service users, and on the other hand, you also form a committee of the users of the service. So the service providers and users are made into committees and they are trained. Then participatory agreement on aspects to be assessed. The two committees now agree on what is to be measured. Then a varying facilitation for the scorecard committees. That is, you need to give them maybe fair reimbursement. If you need to give them some meals, yeah, you have to plan for that. Then you also need, and very important, sign language interpreters or general language interpreters. You may be using a language that is not understood by some of the community members or government officials. So you need a language assistant who can simplify the language. Then sign language interpreters for those who have problems with hearing. So you have to provide for that. Then application, I'm just giving a brief of what we've done in some 4 sub-counties of Meru in Kenya. We have a department called Dons Park, and this department within Caritas Meru of the Catholic Diocese of Meru. and you have applied community scorecards in 4 sub-counties in a participatory manner. This department focuses on inclusivity and empowering persons with disabilities. So when we were forming the community scorecard committees, we had a bias towards persons with disabilities or caregivers. And in the 4 sub-counties, we formed the 4 committees. We formed committees made up of community members, committees made up of service users. And the result of these assessments there has been objective assessment of government services in regard to inclusivity, and it has led to 4 joint action plans that have been owned by the community members and the government. Then I've mentioned that we formed the scorecard committees. Training the committees separately and jointly. We train the government, we train the communities scorecard committee, and then we also manage them and train them. Then they do mutual agreement on what has to be measured or what has to be assessed. Then after the trainings and consensus on the parameters to be measured, each committee separately does scoring. And then after each committee does the scoring, there is what we call the interface meeting, where the 2 committees merge and share results. And we start with the government presenting on how it has gained itself. For example, when it comes to access to information, the government might give itself 80%, while the community might give maybe 50%. Then a dialogue is conducted on the reasoning behind the scores, and then they do harmonization of the scores that they jointly own, and then after the mutually agreed scores are agreed upon and joint action plans are developed. The successes so far are that we have now inclusive action plans that have been developed in the 4 sub-counties, and there is more awareness among the government on the need for inclusion, or need to consider the different needs of persons with disabilities. Then when it comes to construction plans, now based on the scorecard results and other advocacy work that we are doing, the government has now declared, the Meru County government has declared that before approval of any construction, the issue of inclusivity has to be looked at. Then we also have some modification of some health centers. For health workers have been allowed for sign language trainings, because it was highlighted or found out that the biggest gap in training people who have hearing problems is experienced in healthcare, because when an health worker cannot understand sign language, then you not definitely understand the sickness or the condition that that person is facing. Then 10 government institutions have established inclusive pit latrines, and we also have some schools that have come up with inclusive pit latrines. Persons with disabilities are being able to write petitions and memoranda to the county and national government. We have some petitions and memoranda that have been written to highlight some gaps that need to be addressed. Then there has been open friendly dialogue spaces. They are being opened between the government officials and community members. And one of the police stations has established separate cells for persons with disabilities who are in conflict with the law. Initially, they used to be mixed with others who would molest them. Then we have one police station that put a request to the Kenya Police Service, and they were given an officer who can communicate in sign language. What are the benefits of the community development scorecard process? What are the benefits to the community development practitioner? It creates an opportunity to learn from the 2 parties regarding the rating of service delivery. It enables him or her bond with the 2 parties, and it also sharpens his or her understanding of social accountability. There could be more benefits, but those are the ones that I highlighted. Benefits of the process to the community development organization. In our case, we have experienced enhanced organizational bonding with the community and the government. Then we have also enhanced institutional learning on the state of service delivery within Meru County. And it has also enabled our organization to understand the gaps. And now as we write future proposals or projects, we are aware of the gaps highlighted on inclusivity and we consider them. Then benefits of the process to the community scorecard committee. They have, of course, enhanced learning. They get to know how to conduct the scorecard committee, scorecard process, the do's and don'ts, and they also learn in the process. Then it has, of course, built their confidence to engage with the duty bearers openly. In the past, especially persons with disabilities would fear talking with or engaging with the government, giving feedback, but the scorecard process has opened an arena for them to openly discuss with the government, and their confidence has been enhanced. Then it gives them an opportunity to give feedback to the duty bearers. So there is now open communication about service delivery and utilization of public resources. Benefits of the process to government, scorecard committee members. It has enabled them get first-hand feedback from the community on their service delivery. It has also provided an opportunity to explain to the community members why there are gaps and where they are succeeding, why they are succeeding. Then it may also enable the government officers to improve the image and perception of community members about the government. There is a misconception that the government is always unfriendly and is very far from the people, but through the process, it has bridged the gap, and now the government and the community members are closer. And then benefits the general community, provides an opportunity for getting and giving feedback, enables the community to make the government understand their perception on service delivery, creates an opportunity for pushing for positive change, and if action plans jointly developed are implemented, they can lead to improved service delivery. The scorecard process has made some services inclusive, as I mentioned earlier, and one of the problem that the persons with disabilities used to face initially was that when there was relief food distribution, there would be a stampede and people with disability would be unable to get the relief service. But now the government is putting into consideration the special needs of persons with disabilities and is setting aside and distributing the food strategically to the persons with disabilities whenever there are drought emergencies. What are the benefits to the government? It provides an opportunity for getting and giving feedback, enable the government to get an opportunity to understand the perception of the community, creating an opportunity for identification and planning of bridging of gaps. Feedback and joint action plans can enable government agencies to lobby for foundational resources or budgets. What are the challenges we faced? We have faced some challenges. The senior government officials sometimes send junior staff to the scorecard process, and some junior staff sometimes either do not have an opportunity to update their bosses or they don't do it adequately. So when it comes to identification of gaps and getting feedback, sometimes the senior government officials do not get first-hand information. Budgets are centrally developed here in Kenya at higher levels, especially the national government budgets. And at the sub-county level, the person who is in charge, the district, the sub-county, the person in charge, the deputy county commissioner who is in charge may not be able to influence up to the national level. Then the process requires financial resources and time that may not be available. You need some resources for mobility, you need resources to provide snacks, to get the halls, and sometimes these resources are not available or not adequate. Then there are also language barriers that may hinder effective implementation. We have experienced it, and there are ways we've been trying to address the challenges. Countering the challenges, we are lobbying and advocating for involvement of national level CSOs so that you can influence the national level. We are also advocating for resource allocation for implementation of the tool, or the implementation of the tool across the sub-county, and also implementation of the plan that the plans that are implemented are developed. Then we also need to ensure language assistants are part of the process and the use of simple language. So we don't use jargons, we use very simple language, and this is what should be used so that everyone will understand what is being communicated in the scorecard processes. So in our experience, community scorecard is an easy to apply tool for objective assessment of services, and it can be applied with ease and it's beneficial to many actors in the development arena. So thank you for your attention, and I now welcome comments and questions. And if there's something I've omitted, anyone who may have and an experience can also chip in. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Morris, for your presentation and being so spot on in taking us through the scorecard process.
Welcome.
As one of the ways of generating evidence for inclusive community development. And of course, the same can also be said, not just for inclusive community development, but even for community development in as a whole. Because ultimately the premise of community development is that we are going to work with communities to usher in a process of change, to make life much better for everybody in the community, so that we can promote lives of dignity, again, underpinned by the values that are important in the communities. But then, that being the case, there's also the sense in which you also need to be accountable as we do that. And so the scorecard gives us a structured process of ensuring accountability, both vertically and also horizontally, so that then we are held to account for what we do as community practitioners. And as also we build the theory and the methods of the discipline. And so thank you very much, Morris, for taking us through. And the floor is open for comment and any questions that might you might need Morris clarification. I'm sorry that Titi and maybe one other persons were not able to get the audio, but the recording, as indicated by Jessica, is going to be available on IACD website and the rest of the social media platforms for us to continue the interaction in. Thank you very much. Any comment, question?
I'll just add that, as Daniel has rightfully put it, you can also use this tool to assess the services being given by your organization. So you can get feedback from the community using a scorecard process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Melchiade, Burundi, I suppose. Melchiade from Burundi, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. And the presentation,
welcome.
You mentioned you use a participatory process for assessing inclusivity or for planning. In some cases, marginalized groups are afraid of to talk about the cases in public space. If that happens, are there other alternatives for solution? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mechad. I hope, Morris, you have been able to hear the question, and
Yes,
maybe as you
I have
respond,
heard it.
I would ask that you pull down you stop the sharing.
Yes.
So that then we can be able to see each other. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
So any other question? So that then Morris can respond together with the question from Burundi. Chris and then Thais.
Good day. Thanks very much. That's Morris. That's fantastic. Great presentation. At the beginning, the aims, you talk about collaboration with the community. That's fine. But the service provision is a supply and demand type setting. However, sometimes the community has lots of things that they can contribute to improve the quality of service, not just feedback. So what sort of collaboration have you found coming from the community that is not just voice reaction, feedback? Is there something that they can positively be engaged with?
Okay, thank you, Chris. Then Thais, and then Morris can respond.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you, Daniel. Yes, in a social scorecard, the big challenge is always identifying real impacts, and not the superficial, how many jobs were created, how many houses were built, which are also important, but to get to intangible impacts and to measure that. How do you address that in the social scorecard? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, three quite interesting questions, which go to the core of elaborating on what we are trying to discuss, the whole issue of just being accountable for what we do, and in a more substantive manner. Morris, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel, and thank you for those who have asked questions. On the marginalized communities, there was a question of how we bring them on board. It's true there are some marginalized people, and we are talking about participatory identification of those who are going to take part. So what we do is we go down to the community members and try to reach out to the grassroots. And when we are forming the committee, we ensure that there is representation of all, the persons with disabilities, the minorities, and those people who are the bottom of the pyramid socioeconomically. So that it will not be hijacked by only those who are rich or those who are capable of dominating. Then on service delivery, it's true that we've been focusing on feedback, but there is also there are some tools we are using for ensuring that the community participate in identifying their needs. Through what is called the annual development plans, we make sure that we have a mechanism of mobilizing community members, including people with disabilities, to take part in the public participation arena. And public participation, our law in Kenya stipulates that the community should take part in the budget development process in coming up with the plans. There is a 5-year plan called County Integrated Development Plan. There is an annual development plan called the annual ADP. And then we also make sure that they take part in the budget discussions. So at this level, the identification of what needs to be done is done. And now scoring is done now to measure whether what was planned to be done has actually been done and how it was done. Was it done successfully or it was not successful? Then regarding measuring the impacts, as Dice has correctly put it, sometimes it's difficult to measure impact, but we go to the community members and we reach out to the community after doing the scorecard process and coming up with the action plan. We go back to follow-ups to get concrete evidence of whether anything was done or not done. I hope I've responded adequately to the questions, and if not, please excuse me, or someone else can help me in responding.
Okay, thank you, Morris. And I think it's important to appreciate that, of course, scorecard is just one of the tools to just indicate where everything is in the process of community development. Of course, you should be concurrent with other tools, then it can measure, you can get measures of what has changed and what has not changed. But what is important is that the whole process of the dialogue, then voices can be honest in terms of then giving evidence of how communities have impacted by what process of change is being undertaken, and also pinpointing what has not changed and the reasons thereof. And so we want to see the scorecard process not just as a process of ticking boxes, but also is also a process that facilitates a wider dialogue so that ultimately there is consensus. This is where we started, this is the road we have traveled, and this is where we are, and these are the gaps that need to be filled. Thank you very much. Boniface.
Yeah, thank you, Daktari. Thank you, Morris, for a good presentation. It is indeed an eye-opener to all of us. I have a simple question. Who develops the scorecard? Who develops the scorecard? And issue to do with the indicators, the parameters that you use in your case now?
Thank you for the question. There are literatures or some information from different actors on the scorecard process, but now we customize it for the local use, and we raise the community members and the government awareness on the scorecard process. Then we now ensure that we customize our discussion to the local level, the sub-county level. So we engage the two parties in identifying what needs to be measured and how. Then they also agree on how they are going to do the measurement. And after the scores are done, there is also sharing, moderation, and then identification of gaps and coming up with the plans to bridge the gaps. So we jointly do it with the communities, but using some guidelines. There are some guidelines on scorecard processes.
Okay, thank you, Morris.
Welcome.
Boniface, I hope that answers it.
Yeah, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, we live in a world where we have toolboxes all over the place in the courtesy of the World Wide Web. But of course, we also need to be able to domesticate some of this. And given if we embrace participatory processes, especially in monitoring and evaluation, then you find even the scorecard is a product of a consultative process and is executed and implemented in a consultative process to give out outcomes, which again will also be discussed, so that then whatever change and development is being achieved then can be contextualized. So thank you very much. Any other question, comment? Yeah, so we seem to have no other question or comment, and that possibly is evidence that everybody is comfortable with where we are. And in terms of the way forward, of course, the recording is going to be processed and shared, and possibly, again, the slides can be shared subject to Morris giving his consent for sharing with the delegates who have attended or the members who have attended.
They are shareable.
So
I allow for sharing.
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate. And
Okay.
Thais, you had your hand up and is down. Do you still want to say something?
No, if the presentation is shared, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, the presentation is going to be shared. So, and we have your email addresses from the Eventbrite recording, registration process. So that will be great. And thanks so much, everybody. Morris, do you have any final comment? And then I can make an announcement.
No, I thank everyone for participating. Thank you very much. And I can also give feedback on whatever they have shared on where we may need to improve. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Morris. And it's a pleasure to continue with this partnership in promoting inclusive community development. And of course, in this series, we have had quite a bit of a heavy dose on inclusive community development. And so this marks the end of the 31st edition. And now we start talking about now the 32nd edition, which again is also going to be on inclusive community development. The presentation in October is going to be on community-based inclusive development, which will be presented by a colleague from CBM. CBM is Christopher Blint Mission, is an NGO based in Germany, working with, especially promoting eye health, but of course, also taking into account broad issues of community-based development. And so that is going to be our presentation. And then after that, we'll go back to a participatory process in November with Nancy and John. And so that's the roadmap. And in December, we have an open forum where we come and then we can reason together, looking at where we have come from and where we are going. And so we'll have a scorecard process of sorts in the December edition of our series. So thank you very much, and enjoy your day, enjoy your evening. And it was a pleasure making this 31st edition successful. Thank you, Jessica, for hosting us.
Welcome.
Thank you, Daniel, for
everyone.
assisting me in informing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jessica, for the formulation of the poster. Daniel, thank you for assisting me in putting this up together. Asante.
Okay, thank you very much. And okay, bye-bye from us in IACD.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.